Welcome to the Real with Joseph Lamtman. I am Joseph Lamtman. Friday edition of the Real. Happy Friday, you guys. Hope you guys have a good week. Had a good week rather. Getting ready for the weekend. Yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you're new here, like, subscribe, share. If you're a returning subscriber, great to see you. Appreciate the support. Would like if you guys hit that like button on the way in. Share this content. That'd be great. Yeah, hope you guys had a good week. If I can say that right. I'm used to doing this middle of the week, Friday edition, like I said though. So get ready for the weekend. Um, let's see. Nothing really I could think of this weekend, unless you want to watch the Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight. I'm not sure I'm gonna watch that. I kind of forgot about it. It was this week, and I saw it today on social media. So uh, we'll see what happens there. That is kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens. Watched my Cavs last night. First night back from the break. First game back, and a tough loss at home. Should have won the game, but gave it away at the end. So we'll see what happens with them. We'll see what happens, but still in good position, fourth place. So as long as they win the first round this year, I'm happy. But that's not why I'm here today. Today I'm here. I was sitting around thinking about what I want to talk about in this week's show. And I heard this sermon the other day. Anybody knows me knows I like listen to my sermons every day when I'm out, either on my bike ride or just throughout the day. Just kind of where I am in my life right now, my journey, and just not every day I listen to them, but most days I try to, just more than ever, try to get more in tune and just, pick one each and every day, just and build off that every day and really apply it to myself. Really examine myself rather with the sermons I listen to, and just kind of my life, or just all sorts of things in life. And so I was listening to a sermon today rather, and I've heard this one many times. And my man Tony Evans, one of my favorite preachers, Tony talks about a sermon where the title of it is "God Knows What He Is Doing," and he talks about the story of, what a coincidence, Joseph in the Bible, where Joseph was wrongfully convicted, sold into slavery, was in prison for years, for 12 years, like 12, 13 years in prison. His family sold him into slavery. His family turned against him. And then he came back years later after Pharaoh heard he could, trying to think of, I had a brain for it. Oh, after he learned Pharaoh learned that Joseph could interpret dreams and could interpret visions. And so when Pharaoh heard that, he was trying to interpret a vision, and he brought Joseph to him, or Joseph was brought. He asked Joseph to be brought to him from prison, and Joseph interpreted the vision that Pharaoh was having, and Pharaoh was amazed, and Joseph became second in command in a day. Went from prison, wrongfully convicted for years, to second in command in a day. And then he ended up confronting his brothers, and his brothers forgot about him because they hadn't seen him in years. They forgot about him, but he didn't forget about them. Obviously, he had all that time to isolate away to think about it. And when they found out, when he finally showed his brothers, and showed them, hey, this is me, your younger brother, your brother you sold away from slavery years ago. They were shocked, but they were also scared because they thought that the power he had at that time, that he would turn against them, and that he would use his power to seek vengeance on them. But that's not what Joseph did, because Joseph had a mindset. He was so in tune with God that he was so in tune with God that I'm thinking about this because when I heard this sermon, it kind of applied to a lot of the stuff in the sermon. I applied to my journey, what I've gone through, and people around me, close to me, have gone through similar journeys, and how this applies to them. And how, so when Joseph was confronted his brothers, and then he told them who he was, because they forgot about him and they hadn't seen him for years later. Like I said, they were scared. They thought he was going to seek vengeance on him. But he understood God's will. And basically what he told him was, no, I'm going to help you. It wasn't your fault. Because God used the pain. You thought I'd use the pain for bad. God meant it for good. But that's a a very wise, deep understanding. And he realized what God was doing with him years later. And how once he reached that point, that destination, he figured out, okay, God used me to go through pain, uh, and used my pain to help others and for a bigger purpose, right? And so that was the basis of the sermon. Now, I'm not going to play the whole sermon because it's a hour-long sermon. I am going to link it below. But there is like a little 5-minute clip in this sermon that I want to touch on. And what he says is kind of in general what I just said, but also, why does God allow certain things to happen? Because when you're going through a trial, when you're going, in tough times, it's especially for a long period. This was me for a long time, even up until recently. Because it's like 1 minute you're going good, and this was Joseph's life. 1 minute it was good, the next minute it was bad, right? And people did wrong to him. If anybody was meant to be upset, it was him. If you go read his life story in the Bible, people wrongfully convicted him. People did bad things to him that he didn't deserve, right? And there's a lot of people I know in my life, their journeys, their families turned against them. People did bad things to them, caused harm on them, put them in tough spots. Somebody might have mistreated you. Somebody might have let you down. Life has its many turns. My journey, for instance, initially when all this started with me, I was angry, very angry with a lot of people, angry with the circumstances, angry and a lot of pain and sad all at the same time. And just kind of, I was 15 years old at the time too. So also kind of just, you know, kerfuffled, I guess you could say, just kind of confused and just, didn't really know what was going on. But as time went on, especially up until this last year, is when year and a half, is when I finally realized that, hey, I heard Mike Tyson say this one time on an interview with Tony Gonzalez's podcast. And Mike Tyson talked about how what ruined his career. And what ruined his career is he said he brought his pain with him, his pain from childhood, his pain from an experience. He carried it with him. Now, his pain pushed him to doing some incredible things in that boxing ring, which is why he was just an absolute machine in there, because when the bell rang, that light came on, it was his pain coming out. Growing up in Brownsville, growing up, how he grew up tough, all that pain was coming out. That's why he was so good. But it ruined his career in the end, like he said, because it started to control him. It controlled his ego, thought nobody could touch him, and became his downfall, right? And so for a long time for me, I was just stuck. I was stuck, but I was also angry, but I was still in like the same area. And I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of was like, man, the hell with this, the hell with the, and then you just carry that pain. That pain grows, but you're the one that carries the pain, and that pain grows bigger and bigger and bigger inside of you as the longer it goes on. You carry it, and so that was me for a long time. And I mean, that's, for instance, like when I went, a lot of times how I would get rid of my pain or just to cope was just, I would just go do like heroic bike ride. I mean, if you go look at my bike logs, how many miles I was doing in 2020 and like 21, about half, well, all up till the summer 21. I've talked about this before. It was like, Olympic style. I mean, bike riding for a year straight. I mean, just the miles I was putting on. But a lot of it was due to just based around trying to prove to myself. I made a false label and a false, uh, I say false label, but I created a false illusion in my head based around how people may have perceived me, what had happened, and I carried that and I wore that. But at the same time, that wasn't me. I was still being somebody or trying to be somebody that really wasn't who I really was, who God wanted me to be. Not completely, but not just, it just wasn't, something was just off for a while. Right. And so, but again, it was carrying that pain. But once I got refocused and I started to slow down again, once I hit kind of rock bottom, and I knew I had to start changing some things, start seeking, more better help, and just letting myself just be more and just allow myself to let go. that's what I started to realize, like, uh, things really weren't what I made them out to be. But also, I got closer to God, and I really just drawed really close to Him. I just really um, became more open minded because I got to the point where I said, man, none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff from my past matters. Whether people think something, who cares? And a lot of people didn't. And it's never what we make it out to be in our heads. Things are never as hard as we make them out to be. Things are never as big as we make them out to be. A lot of times, it's just illusions, and that's what I carried for years. Just illusions, and just me trying to figure things out in my own mind. And all it did was just cause more stress, more pressure on me. And so once I started to dive deep, well, once I started getting more help, obviously, but talking to somebody and also um, really going to the dentist's programs, the anxiety guy, and then also, like I said, connecting more with God, it helped me open up more. And then this podcast was really just like really helped me at the end, just open it up more. Because when I come out my first episode, I tell everybody what's been happening, where I've been, and what happened to me to the whole world now. So you know, everybody knows there's no holding back, which is a great feeling. It's a great feeling to not be afraid to, you know, say who you are, what you've been through, and not be shy about it. You know what I mean? And doesn't mean I say everything. Some things are kept private. Obviously, everybody has their own private life. But for the most part, I'm not afraid to be who I really am now. I'm not afraid to, it's like I heard a story earlier from Kevin Garnett, if you're anybody like sports, and Kevin Garnett was telling an analogy about Kobe Bryant, or a story rather, and he said, Kobe's first year in the league, he was kind of, he wasn't playing a whole lot. He cut his head bald. He was trying to be like Mike because he loved Michael Jordan, and he wasn't getting any playing time. And I remember Kevin Garnett said he ran into him in the middle of his rookie year, and he's like, "Hey man, how are things going?" And he said Kobe was just kind of like, "Man, these guys are hating on me, and they don't respect me." And he goes, "I'm gonna make them pay." But he was trying to be like Mike. I think what Kevin Garnett was basically saying was there's just a lot of pressure. He was putting pressure on himself, trying to be somebody else. And why he says that is because he said when I saw him the next summer, going into the second year, when he started playing more and he started really becoming Kobe Bryant. Now Kobe Bryant came back with the afro. Like he allowed him. He just said, "I'm gonna do this my damn self. I'm gonna be me." And he said, "Stop trying to be somebody else." He's trying to be Kobe Bryant. I think he said he came back with the afro. His game changed though. He said his confidence. He saw him as he was talking trash. He was becoming Kobe Bryant. He was started doing rhymes, like speaking Italian. Just he allowed his personality to show more publicly. He became Kobe Bryant, and he just said, "You know what? Forget about what everybody else. Forget trying to be somebody else. I'm gonna just be me, who I want to be." And people like it, great. If not, that's great too. Who cares? And that's the mindset. Really, it's just no more people pleasing. No more putting pressure on yourself, and no more just uh, carrying that pain around. And that's what I learned. And that's why I like this clip I'm going to play here, this 5-minute clip, because I love what Tony Evans says here about using this analogy in the story, but also, there's a lot of things in my life, people close to me, um, that I'm starting to, like people in my own family, that I'm starting to realize more of what I've gone through has helped them, heal for generational trauma. Like I'm talking decades of things people have been carrying around. But I started to realize God was using me and my own family to help cure a lot of things that was really haunted the family. Let's be honest, my family for years, and it's very humbling. It's very it's just incredible how God works. And it's actually like my first episode. I remember one of the best things I ever heard was there was a kid I guess that watched. Well, he's not a kid now. He's a grown man. He's in his 30s. His mother works with one of my family members, and she told my family member that my family member showed her the video when it came out because everybody was all excited about it, and so I guess she showed her son. I think for whatever reason he came across this video, And I guess her son had something he had been hiding from his mom for years, for 30 years. And that's a long time. I mean, the 25, 30 years, a long time. Like I said, he's in his late 30s now. Something he held from his mom since his teenage years. So yeah, about 25 years or so. Do the math, um, but a long time. And he finally confessed to his mom after he and told her what he'd been holding for years. And he said it was just so much weight lifted off, and just the relationship was so much better. But it was because he watched my video. And I'm not saying that for me. I'm not. That has nothing to do with me. But it was God working through me. It's all glorification to God. And when I heard that, I was just like, wow. And I was told this about a week or two after that initial video last year, almost a year now. It's crazy. It'll be a year next month. Um, April 2nd, I did that. And it's just crazy how God, he used my journey, my pain, to years later down the road. It started when I was 15 when it really got bad. How years later when I'm 22 now, I sit up on a mic and tell my journey of what I've been through to that point. Helps this guy with something he's been holding on for years, decades, and in my own family. And there's a lot of things I still haven't. Um, I don't really fully know yet. You know, who else around me, or people maybe I haven't seen in years. I don't know. And same thing could be for you. And I'm sure there's many people watching this right now who have probably had similar stories, or affect people in some way. How maybe you've seen God use you and your pain to help some other people, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. Like the people that maybe you're around the most every day, the people you least expect, are watching you, and they see what you're doing. They see how you respond to things. They see how you show the blueprint, and how to, how God showed the blueprint through you, how to respond to certain things through Him, and maybe help them get better in something in their own life that they didn't realize, right? And just there's so many different ways, so many different avenues. Like another sports analogy, because I love sports. If anybody's ever seen the Magic Johnson Isaiah Thomas sit down interview, the legendary Isaiah Thomas, and their relationship, and how they were good friends, they hung out and trained all summer. And Isaiah Thomas talked about how when he saw Magic Johnson lose in '84 to the Celtics, just how much pain he went through. They were calling him Tragic Magic, all these things. He had a bad series, turned the ball over a lot, wasn't himself, and he cost him the series really. And he even said it. And so, yeah, as a leader of the team, and I remember Isaiah Thomas said he was in pain that whole summer, just cried, and they never seen him like that. It was him and Mark McGuire. It was Mark McGuire, Isaiah Thomas, and Magic Johnson, and all three of them hung out. And he said Isaiah said him and Mark never seen you know Magic go through that before, but he responded, and they watched how he responded, and he just went to work that summer, and he came back that next year, and he had to win, and he did win. He won the '85 championship against anyone at the Celtics, got his rematch, and he beat him. And so years later, I believe in right before the Pistons took off, everybody remembers, if you know basketball history, Isaiah Thomas threw the ball out of bounds and was stolen by Dennis Johnson against the Celtics, and Isaiah cost him the game, which cost him the series. So now Isaiah's at that same point he saw Magic at years before. But what Isaiah said helped him, and he told Magic this in the interview. They did this interview years ago too. Great interview, by the way. Go check it out online. It's on YouTube. Um, but he told Magic, he goes, what helped me get through that pain I went through when I threw the ball out of bounds, it cost our team the series, and everybody in the world saw it. He said, what helped me get through that was how I saw you responded years before when you lost at '84. And I saw how you responded years later when I was going through it, and it helped me get through because I saw somebody else. He goes, I've never seen anybody else go through that besides you. So now when I go through it, now I know how to respond. I've seen you, how you overcame that and went through it. And like you said, overcame that and came out on top and came back stronger. And so that's just an analogy you can use in life, and how God uses us for all different sorts of things. And so, uh, yeah, God knows what He is doing. And so, I got this clip from Tony Evans. I'm gonna play. It's a 5-minute clip. Let me get some. Let me see. Okay, so I got this book, Tony Evans. I'll play. The sermon is God knows what he's doing. Get on the screen. There we go. I can't do video of this for copyright reasons. So I have to find audio ones online. But still listen to pay attention because it's great stuff here. Kind of based off what I was saying here the last 20 minutes. Just this whole theme of understanding. I'm trying to help you guys understand what helped me, which is if you're going through something long, hard trial, if you're in a place in your life right now, you don't know where things are going. Maybe things didn't go how you thought they would in your life. Maybe something happened to you recently within the last year or two, or if like for me it was a long time. Just things just didn't go as planned, right? And things seem hard right now, and you don't know where to go. Maybe yet still you're figuring out, but just understanding though. I'll ramble a little bit, but what helped me was understand that the pain you're going through is for a greater purpose. It's more than you. It's not about you. I mean, it is about you. God's going to reward you, and God will help you grow and take you to a greater place. And I've learned that, and I'm still seeing that happen unfold in my life. But it's bigger than us. It's bigger than us for a greater purpose. Just like I said with that, man, when I heard that story about that kid, I keep calling him a kid. When I heard that story about that guy who's in his late 30s now, and he told it to his mom, I was in disbelief. And you know what I said? It was all worth it. It was all worth it for me, because that's one of the biggest compliments you can ever get in life. And I've been part of some pretty cool things. I was part of some, great teams growing up, won a national championship. That was, I think about it now, it's pretty surreal how God can use you for something greater, something that, imagine, and this look up to my own family. I know the pain people carry around for years, like my own family, especially on my dad's side. One of the worst pains, probably the worst pain that ever happened to a family is a divorce. Now, I never experienced that. I'm lucky. My parents been married my whole life, and God has been very good to us. But both of my parents experienced that, especially my dad's side, and just that's some of the worst pain people can go through. How it ended, again, unravel and divide a whole family. And that's what happened with my dad's family. And just a lot of other things too, for your hypochondria. But just that pain for generations you can carry for years. And how God could use one person or use multiple different people, either just certain to change that. And it's pretty damn cool. It's pretty cool, man. And it's like I said, sometimes I think about I still don't know yet. I'm only 23, and I've only been doing this for less than a year. So, but it's still pretty surreal, just the outreach people. It's been pretty cool. I'm not going to sit and ramble, but it's been pretty cool, and it's been cool to see other people I know start to impact in different ways too, especially people my age. And shout out to you guys. And so, keep it going. Don't be afraid to speak up, because you never know who it's going to affect. But I'm gonna get to this video now. I'm gonna stop rambling a little bit. But again, Tony Evans, God knows what he's doing. Really listen here to what he's saying. It's just incredible.
All right, let's put this in perspective. Remember now, if you are on the same page with God and bad things happen to you, you must look at the bad things as the hand of God and not merely the hand of man. That's my point. God knows what he's doing. In allowing that to come to you, he knew it was coming. He decided not to stop it, so he must plan to do something with it. You say, but why is he allowing the negative? He tells you in Psalm 105, he says, to test him. Joseph, you talking about all that? I trust in the Lord. You say you believe in me, you have confidence in me. Let's see. Do you trust me when man's hand is against you? When you are committed to God and man's hand is against you, it's a test. It's a test.
Now, hold on, let me get back on screen here. Okay, there we go. Now, notice what he said there. When man's hand is against you, when things are going south, how do you perceive that? And do you perceive it? And I've been here, guys. I perceived it at first when I was going through this. Oh my gosh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. Why is this happening to me? I didn't do nothing. You can play the victim card, right? You can allow that victim card can control you, get you down, get you depressed, right? And I've been there. But what helps you get out of that? What helps you initially to respond next time better to things? If it happened, God allowed it. So, and like you said, this is where you have to really understand God and understand why he allowed. And I had to learn. I'm still learning. I'm only 23, but I had to learn this, recently because where I was in my life, I had to learn it. And God showed me what he was doing. He showed me why. And so, and when he showed me why was he's testing me, like you just said. God was testing me, and he's building me up for something bigger than I could even imagine or comprehended. Right? I had goals, I had dreams and aspirations when I was 15 years old. When I got to high school, I was gonna play basketball, I was gonna do all this stuff, and God said, "Nah, bro, like, nah, I got a different plan for you." And so at first I was kind of like, when all this stopped and everything was gone, where I was used to, I was in this whole different world now. I was used to going to school every day. I was used to playing ball. I was being around people. To now, all of a sudden, I can't leave my house for a period. I'm stuck in the house, not around people, not talking to people. It's getting dark out. It's winter, early winter, so it's getting dark early. And everything was just confusing. And I'm just kind of like, what the hell just happened to me? What just happened? And that's how I was for a while. I was in shock. And kind of just like trying to put it all together, but also the pain, the anger at the same time too was just there, and I was feeling it, right? But until I got older down my journey, and I hit rock bottom, was when I realized, okay, God's got a bigger plan for this, and God's testing me. God does have something bigger, and a lot of the dreams and goals that and just things aspirations I had, visions for my life. A lot of them were still there. They were always there. It was almost like God was like telling, like, it's how do I explain this? A lot of times, at least where I learned, if you're connected with, especially really in tune with God, or just maybe not, but a lot of times, at least again from my experience, a lot of the things you maybe think about a lot, you wonder why you think about them, maybe things in your mind, and you wonder why they're always there. A lot of times it's God speaking to you. And a lot of times too, I would pray about it, or try to get rid of the thought or whatever. But it always came back around. Ideas and just visions and just, things in your life. People could even be people, or just things in your life that you always wondered about, that you least expected, or you thought was gone. And God comes back around and says, I gave you that vision for a reason. And that's what I learned. I had this vision for this podcast for years. I remember sitting on my back patio in September of 2020. It was the first time I met Mike Antonese. Shout out, Mike. And I remember I knew Mike. I've heard of Mike. I knew Mike grew up in the Falls. I knew Mike, he worked with my dad previous to that. He knew my cousin, Jimmy. They grew up, they were around the same class. And so I knew Mike. I knew who Mike was. And I knew Mike was an awesome person. He's one of the funniest, and just Mike's. You've been watching the show, Mike. Mike's just a character. He's unbelievable. Mike's awesome, but I didn't meet Mike in person until then. And so he comes over to my house one night, and we're out back talking. And like I said, I had the vision. I wanted to do something. I wanted to either write. I wanted to do this, like talking or audio. I just wanted to do. I had the idea of some type of podcast. I was getting really intrigued by it. I was watching a lot of people at that time 2020, everything was shut down because of COVID. But I was watching like my man Jason Whitlock. He just went to Outkick at the time, so I was actually writing over on Outkick on his forums. I was writing like basically articles on Jason Whitlock's forums, and I just kind of got into that. I was like, I kind of like this kind of work, just sharing my mind, my thoughts, kind of being in this like media world, I guess you could say. So my curiosity started to grow more, and I started to envision myself. And I watch other podcasts, many other podcasts, famous, one of the more well-known guys out there. I was watching them, people you guys all know, like Diaz, Rogan, all kinds of people. Whitlock, like I said, and then so I had this vision, I had this idea, and when I met Mike, because I'd always said, well, I want to bring people on my show. Obviously, I want like different personalities. And I remember the first night I met Mike, we're sitting out back talking. We sat out there for 4 hours, and after the 4 hours, I was said to my mind, and in my head, I was thinking, when I start that podcast, wherever I start, I want this guy to come on with me because this guy, he's got an open mind. He's very like Mike just has all the talent to be. That's why I came away from Mike when he gets the time. He's a busy man right now working. Whenever he starts his podcast, I can't wait to hear it because Mike's just a very creative thinker, and it's not easy to come up here and talk for a long time and to do many. You got to get really creative. You got to really have something to go off of, either experience, your journey. You got to have something. You can't just come up here and just and reiterate. It's not gonna. If you really want to connect with people, you got to really be personable. You really got to not be afraid to share who you are and your experiences and be open. And you got to get, like I said, you got to be creative. That's what Mike is. And Mike has been everything I always thought he would be since I've had him on this show. And like I said, I can't wait to hear his podcast down the road. But again, that vision and how God brought Mike into my life. And he started bringing other people in my life too. And some people have been on the show. And then Kwame Brown comes to life that following spring. Where his initial video responded to guys that were, he didn't like talking down on his name. And then Kwame Brown took off and showed the world on YouTube how it can be done. A lot of like how I do my setup and stuff is what I would never be here was for Kwame Brown. Because I got intrigued into what his channel and what he was talking about. He was very entertaining, fun. He also said a lot of great things. And so I started following him. And then he showed me how I could do this. And again, he brought more people in my life. And then by the end of 2021, I was starting helping myself more. And from that period of August of 21 all the way up until April 2nd of last year when I did my first show, my initial episode, God, in that time period, God was really preparing me. But he was preparing me all along. And all those years before that, when I was going through it, because I had, all those years when I was away, going through it, kind of doing my own thing every day, I would just sit and listen to a lot of the Anxiety Guy podcast. I would sit and I would just sit and watch so many podcasts and shows all day. But I wasn't just watching for what they were talking about. I would watch how they would do their work. So it's basically like I went to college. That was my college for 4 years or 5 years, whatever it was. From 2018, about 2018, all the way till when I started this. God was preparing me for that 5-year period. For 4 years. About 4 or 5 years. That was my college. And so, I know I kind of rambled here more. I didn't mean to, but again, and I know this all started when I paused this. He was talking about God testing you. And so understand the test, what you're going through is always setting you up for something better. You may not see it right now. You may not feel right now. It may take a long time. It took me a long time. And there's still things in my life, guys, that I don't have yet, or that God's processing, he's working through right now. Maybe I things I don't really know about yet, or have don't know where it's going, I guess you could say, or in a way like, there's still things processed in my life. And so, but again, I just trust. And do you have days where you get kind of frustrated or down, or moments, or we kind of just want to forget about it, move on. Yeah, absolutely. We're human. But that's where you have to really draw more closer to him and keep praying about it. And if he keeps it, you just know if he keeps something going. And you just know that, okay, he's got me here. He's kept me there. He's kept me in the situation. He's kept me whatever it is. Because there's something growing there. He's got something going on there. So I'm just going to stick it out. I'm going to keep praying to him. I'm going to keep just go put and hang in there. And eventually I'll know. And he's never going to set me up to fail. It's always to grow me, to push me something greater for a better, greater purpose, and better than I could imagine. And so, again, understand the mindset of test. If you're going through test in life, and really connect spiritually, and really understand why he allows this test. And so, I'm going to play the rest of this clip here. I know I rambled there a little bit, but it's all right. So, let me get back to the video.
God wants to see whether you trust him, not hear it. Do you trust him when it's going backwards? When it is going in reverse? Are you blessing his name now? Are you worshiping him now? Are you giving him glory now? Are you coming to church now? Are you serving him now? Are you giving now? Are you responding like he's good even when it's bad? God allowed the negative to test you. God was up to something much bigger. In fact, the reason it took so long was because it was so big. Let me give you good news about a long test. If you're in a long test, it's because there's a big reason. So let me tell you the reason. It says, Israel came to Egypt. God made a promise years earlier to their forefather named Abraham. I'm going to make of you a great nation. I am going to make of you a great nation. And when I make of you this great nation, as part of this process of bringing this nation into being, God says, you will be in a land called Egypt for 400 years. And out of that 400-year experience, I'm going to give birth to a nation that will come out of your offspring, and this nation shall be my people and shall glorify my name. That goes way back. That's what Joseph's great granddaddy. That's way back. Question is, how was God going to keep his promise? He got Joseph's brothers to sell him into slavery. The slave owner sold him to an Egyptian. The Egyptian sent him to prison. He became the confidant of Pharaoh. He's the only one who could supply the food, which brings his 11 brothers up to Egypt. While they are now living in Egypt, they become the children of Israel, expanding in Egypt. So guess what? God used the negative in one man's life to keep a promise about the building of a whole nation.
So again, like you just said there, God used the pain and the just suffering of one man to fulfill a promise to fulfill a whole nation. And yeah, to restore. I mean, it's like what I was saying earlier, and I've experienced this, and I know people around me have experienced this. And I mean, look at the anxiety guy, for example. That's just one example. I'm not sitting here today doing this probably if it wasn't if he didn't put himself out there and create his channel when he did years ago. And so, again, how God works in mysterious ways. And so, that's what helps me keep going. And what helped me keep going. And what really fuels me now more. And, you get to a point too, and I've actually gotten to this point recently, and it's something I've been going through recently. Is my own journey. It's just I feel like I'm at the point now in my journey where I'm, taking the next step in my life and just really moving on and moving forward with a lot of things, just personally. But also, you get to that point where you feel like when I started to realize a lot of these things, and really recently, not when I first started doing this, and before this, forget the podcast, even before I started doing this podcast, like I said, all those years I was going through really down times, like where I was still quiet, I was concealing a lot of things and not really getting the help I needed, trying to figure it all out on my own. I didn't realize fully then. I didn't really pay attention to what he was doing. And so, like, within the last year now, I've really started to realize more. God will show you. And God's been showing me, speaking to me through people or through just knowing when you're connected with the Spirit. Hey man, I used you, what you went through, for a bigger purpose. And you get to the point now where it's okay, now it's time for you to take the next step and leave it to me and surrender it all to me. And that's where I've been. And that's where I'm at my journey, is just surrender it all to him now and just letting him, I did what he asked me to do. He used me at that point in time, or in these last 8 years, for his purpose. And I'm at the point where he's taking me to the next phase, into the next part of my journey. That's why I've been transitioning in. And so, and it's not like you forget about those things or give up on the things you were doing. It's just taking a whole nother level now, and you start having newer things in your life. And that's what I've had a lot of new things in my life in the last year, so within the last year, and things that I've always wanted, things I'm excited about, even just trying certain things, putting myself out there, going for it, doing things I would have never thought of doing even a year ago. But go for it. Especially if you feel like God's calling you to do it, go for it. Don't leave any stone unturned. Don't leave any. And I remember Dennis said this. What drove him to finally get going? Because imagine yourself years from now, laying on your deathbed, or you're older, and your life's really, a lot of your life's gone by, in your 70s, your 80s, whatever, or just looking back at any point, like having regret. I think regret, but also just not living the life you want. You don't feel fulfilled fully. That's not how I want to live. And for a while, I was like I said, in those earlier years when I was going through this, up until almost about 2 years ago, I was just kind of like, I was just going through it, carrying that pain, like I said, and just kind of going through the motions, and just like, eventually I'll do this, do that, just is what it is. But no real, like, there wasn't a real fire, like a real dreams. Like I really could achieve my dreams and my goals, and I really could be something greater than what I wanted to be at that time. What I was just settling. It's easy to settle in life, especially in our society. Easy to settle for any, not just relationships, but careers. You could settle for a lot of things in your life. But a lot of times when you settle, you're settling for something less than what God has in store for you. And a lot of times the things that we think we want, we think will make us happy, that we desire, that we think will change everything for us. See, a lot of people I know, and I see this, you see this a lot of times nowadays in society. A lot of people think, if I change my environment, if I do all these external things, if I try to chase happiness and try to chase you're chasing the world, really, it's going to make everything's going to be better. It's going to change everything for me. But a lot of times what you see, God isn't, did they really seek God before they made the decisions? Doesn't mean that decision it's not the right thing to do. But a lot of times, a lot of people can go do certain things, try certain things, or put themselves in certain circumstances where down the road it kind of bites them in the ass. And they kind of regret it. And or they wish they would have did more, maybe thought about it more. And this is something everybody goes through, because we're all human. But again, this is why it's good to take the lessons from each test. That's my next point, is because the next time you go through a next test or whatever ups and downs comes in your life, throughout the rest of your life, you're always going to have ups and downs. You're always going to have tests and trials. It's part of life. But it's also, you get to perceive it. How do you perceive it? And do you trust God? Do you really believe God knows what he's doing? Right? And so when you help make that next decision in your life, or you go through that next test or whatever it is, you seek him first and allow him to lead you and show you, rather than trying to do it all on your own. And that's what I was getting. That was me for years, trying to do it all on my own. Trying to figure it all out on my own, but I was carrying that pain that Mike Tyson talked about. Carrying the pain, and it ruined his career. You can't do it on your own. And like it's kind of scary to see what happens now. What messages you're seeing pushed nowadays in our society, especially people my age. You see a lot of this. I think things, like, in my opinion, things have gotten a little too independent in the last 2 years. And it's really taken off more now. Things have gotten too independent. People are isolating themselves more. People are, like, self-care is great. Self-care is not selfish. It's good to take care of yourself first. Sometimes you take care of yourself first, you can help other people better. Totally agree. But I think there's a lot of this, people will isolate themselves and almost like focus on themselves too much, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people you see all these things online all the time in these videos and social medias, do this for X amount of months and do this and isolate, don't talk to nobody, just work on you and blah blah. But they miss the point. When you watch a lot of these videos, where's the spirit involved in it? The spiritual side of it. Because what happens is, it draws people. People go for this, and they do it. And as time goes on, the people say, you know what? I don't need nobody. I don't need the world. I don't need help. I can figure this out on my own. But you're shutting yourself off from people, from the world. And when you do that, you're missing the point. Because God oftentimes uses people to help give you what you need, to help you get over that hump, whatever you're going through in your life. But we've become too independent now. That's why people don't know how to communicate now. People are scared to talk. People won't be honest with people anymore. People are just afraid. I'm not saying you're going to tell everybody everything about you, but people are just afraid. People are afraid, and they carry their pain. That's really what you're doing. You know how I know? Because that was me. I've been on the other side of that. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to isolate yourself, not talk to people, and just think you got it all. You can figure it all out on your own. I'm a boss. All this stuff, all this talk. But then all you're doing is you're really just allowing your pain to control you. That's why community is important. Seeking counsel is important. Keeping God in the center of it is important. And yes, there's times where you have to face things by yourself, and I've been there. You have to face the tempter alone a lot of times. But it's okay to have help. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to put yourself out there. It's okay to be honest with somebody and just talk to somebody about anything, whatever it is. We don't have to do all this isolation. Everything's just, like I said, it's too independent now. To me, it's just too secular. It's too, like, I don't know. I just think it's too. I just think the community side of everything, and just the actual love, connection, and help, and just what the world really needs is just we're going further and further away from it every day, and all it does is just keep people in the same cycle. You might do well for a little bit, like I said, but the pain's always there. The pain's never addressed. The pain's never healed for people. And that's why a lot of people miss their calling. A lot of people miss what God's really doing in their life. They think people screwed them over, and to hell with everybody. I'm just going to forget about everybody and move forward. Well, no. you're missing the point. You have a bigger purpose here, but you're not seeing it because you're isolating yourself. You're pulling yourself away from reality. You're following the worldly. You're really just following worldly thinking, and anything that's worldly is anything not connected to God. So that's all. You should, that right there alone should let you know. Is what I'm doing really working? Do I really feel confident where I'm heading? Do I truly have the things I truly want in life? Ask yourself that. And a lot of times people around you can give shitty about. Okay, I don't mean to cuss on this one. But a lot of times people around you give you crappy advice. And I mean they do it out of harm, but again, this is where you have to turn to God and allow yourself to be open. And allow the Spirit to fill you, to come in and, allow the Holy Spirit to come in and fill you up and to work through you. Really allow yourself, and like I said, be open. Because you could help, you never know who you can impact. And I'm a perfect example of that. And so are many other people. And so, I'm going to finish out this clip and then I'll wrap this up.
Joseph went through deep waters because God was doing a whopping thing. When your waters are deep and they're lasting long, get your praise on. Because he's preserving something. He's building something. He's doing something. The problem is only spiritual people see this. The carnal are complaining. The carnal are cussing and fussing and rebelling. The carnal are spending all day asking why rather than spending time giving thanks in everything. God is up to something. If his delay is one negative on top of another, and you're walking with him. See, Joseph was walking with God. And because he was walking with God, it was not wasted time. If you're not walking with God, you don't know what is going on. And you mad all the time. Verse 21 of chapter.
Yeah, and that was my clip today from Tony Evans, and I love what he said there at the end, the two things. Basically what I was just talking about, with rebellion, stuff. Hold on, sorry. Okay, when talking about, you just see a lot of people just rebelling. And that's kind of goes with what I was just saying. Everything's just too independent now. You just see a lot of people rebelling, carrying that anger controls them, and they just think. A lot of people too, they look back at their time, just think, oh, it was a waste of time. Like I said, they think people just screwed them over, and you kind of just shut yourself off from the world. But you're also shutting yourself off from what God has next for you. So you're not allowing yourself to seek what He has planned for you that's greater, because you won't give it a chance. And so, time's never wasted. When God's will, when you're going through something, it's not a waste of time. And did I think that for years? Yeah. And sometimes, even up until recently, I struggled with that. I look back like, man, I wasted a lot of time. But I think back, no, I didn't. Everything I went through, I'm proud of that. And those years I was isolated away, I'm glad it happened. And those years I went through all that and everything I've been through, I'm glad it's happened. It's not wasted. And there's still a lot of things I'm only 23. There's still a lot of things from here on out and more lessons I'll learn in my life. I'll go through different trials. We all do. But it'll never be wasted. It'll all be for something greater, right? And that's really our purpose in life in general. That's why we're here. So, yeah, I mean, God knows what He's doing. And that was the message for today's show. Like I said, I heard that sermon earlier today. I've heard that sermon many times. I'll link the full sermon below if you want to go listen to it. Highly recommend. Great story, great sermon. Could really help you. And yeah, I hope this helped you guys today. And just, I rambled a lot in this one, which is good. I like to ramble sometimes, but yeah, just kind of a lot of what I see nowadays too. Like I said, I really, what I said there at the end too, just about this, especially people like my age group, it's just all over now with social media, just everything, the music, it's just everybody isolates, almost too isolated, and just too independent, too, and you're just shutting yourself off from the world, and you're just shutting yourself off from. You're not even aware of it. If you were a Christian, you're connected to God, or maybe if you aren't, even if you aren't, it's just pulling you away further and further from the Spirit. Because when you start to think you don't need things, I can do this myself, and I don't need help. I don't need nothing. I can do this all on my own. You're gonna set yourself up to fail because everybody needs some type of help. You have to have something to help you keep going and to help you really, but to also help you reach your full potential, reach your dreams and your goals. If you have that mindset that I got it all figured out and that, I got, and everybody's, another thing too, we see in our society now, everything's got to have certain like standards and certain goals. I got to reach this point and this X, Y, Z here. You never know when things can happen. Yeah, it's good to have, you know, good standards, but are they God standards? You know, because when God's ready to act on something, it don't take long. I've learned that in my life. Hell, the first week when I did that first podcast, April 2nd last year, I talked about that many times. That week leading up to that Saturday when I did that, one of the hardest weeks of my life. If you would have asked me the Saturday before, what day was that? Let me look that up. The Saturday before. So I did that April 2nd, Saturday. If you would have asked me on, March 26th, if you'd have told me on March 26th that, hey, a week from now, you're going to do your first episode. And if you'd have told me, hey, a month from now, you're going to find out I helped somebody, this kid tells, or I keep saying the kid, I'm sorry if you're watching it, I mean to call you kid. But you helped this guy who held on to all his trauma when he was a kid, and he told his mom. I'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. Really? I'm like, no, I'm not ready right now. That's what that's what I did for a long time too. I was like, I have people to ask me, hey, when's the podcast coming? Oh, real soon, real soon. I got 2 weeks. It's coming. Real soon. It was never coming because I was afraid. Still, I was still, uh, putting it off out of fear, that pain. But God made me very uncomfortable, and then God made it very clear to me in a week, just that in a week, that fast, that no, it's time. You need to go now. I'm telling you to go now. And that's what I knew. And that's why I said, you know what? I'm not putting it off anymore, God. I'm doing it. And one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Same thing can be done for you. But again, also that week, what helped me that week, that Friday, the day before, and it speaks for the power of prayer, and I've mentioned this story many times. I'll wrap up with this. So the Friday before, April 1st, we're doing a project at my house, bathroom remodel. My dad and I are working on it. And Joe the Paisan Zavarelli has been on the show many times. You guys go back and watch Joe Zavarelli, the Paisan, we call him. One of the greatest people you ever meet. Just very strong connection with God. Just one of the, just, you want like powerful prayer, just have Joe pray for you because, and that's why it's important too to ask when you need prayer, seek people who has power behind it. Their faith is so strong because I'm telling you, this is why I mentioned this story. Joe knew about it for a while. Joe was working with my dad at the time, and I was going through it. I had a rough couple of days, bad panic attack the day before. It was, like I said, it was a rough week, and we're on the phone with Joe on speakerphone. Joe called my dad, and he heard I was in the background. Yeah, hey, how you doing? We're talking, and Joe just leads us in prayer. And Joe said in the prayer, and I can't remember exact words, but he said, Lord, help Joseph get that podcast going and he can share a story and what's going on. And he said that prayer, and I remember how he said it too. It was powerful, strong. I mean, just faith. I mean, just you could feel it. And that's the first time I ever heard Joe pray, because I was actually starting to get to know Joe a little bit more back then. And a day later, it happened. And so, again, when you let it go to God and you seek counsel, you seek prayer. This is why I said it's good to have people around you to help you, pray for you, not just isolate yourself. And pray for anything in your life, whatever you're going through, anything. Give it all to Him. Anything. Watch what can happen. And I experienced that firsthand. And so, God knows what He's doing. And so that's a message for today. I hope you guys took something from this. Please leave a comment below what you took from this. Share this video. I'm really curious to see your guys' I want to hear you guys' feedback from this. And yeah, just keep going, guys. Just keep going and keep trusting in God and keep praying. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there either, because like I said, you never know who it can affect, who it can help. You may not know right away. You might find out a month, 2 weeks, years later. You know, I found out all those. And so, yeah. And like I said, I'll link the full sermon from Tony Evans below. God knows what He's doing. I'll link that below. Check it out. Great sermon. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Everybody stay safe. Have fun with your friends and family, whatever you're doing this weekend. I know the weather here is a little wacky. Yesterday it was 70. Now today it's like 35, but it's still sunny. But yeah, go from 70 degrees to 35 degrees. So, yeah, that is what it is. But I can't complain though. This is one of the more mild winters I've ever been. Probably maybe the most mild winter I've ever seen in my life. I haven't shoveled one time this year, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, like, subscribe, share, like always, and love all you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here.